Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hanshi's Corner with Vena Sensei. Uh, it's a little after 10 o'clock. It's 10:04, Wednesday, October 6th, 2021. I'm broadcasting live from Youngsville, North Carolina. And tonight's program is about Shinto Kata. We'll be talking about Shinto Kata as our subject matter. And we'll be looking forward to kicking off the program tonight with some shout outs. As we do all the time, we like to pay homage to our founder, Shimabuku Tatsuo Sensei. We must always remember where we come from in order to know where we're going. It's very important. And then all the first generation students, that's where we come from. We come from the founder and all the first generation students that brought the karate back to the States here and taught all of us. So we always want to give a big shout out to the first generation students of Ishinu Karate, the students of our founder. And then, of course, their grand black belts, all the black belts that came from those first gen students, really set the stage for excellence over the, you know, 50, 60 years. And that the idea of training in the syllabus is very exciting because all of the senseis are all working very, very hard to coordinate the efforts of both themselves. So, our reflections of teachings and passing on the curriculum to the youngsters and the people that want to learn, adults and the elderly, is a great responsibility and a great privilege. So, we say thank you to all of the work that has gone on since the naming of Ishinru Karate, and that all of us, as we continue to practice, we take a look at what we've learned and we drill. We get creative. We use, some of our students to open up their minds and see what can you find in, let's say, a Seisan Kata, or, as we're talking about tonight, Shinto. So it sparks discussion, some ideas get flowing, and then the work starts to happen. You start trying different things and you start experimenting with timing, distance, balance, that flinch response, all of the things that you work on when you're drilling a particular drill. So tonight, we talk about Shinto and we talk about its origin, and then what Shimabuku Sensei paid homage to the empty hand kata Shinto by putting it in his study so that we can study it. Um, let's talk about a couple of things when we say Shinto kata, empty hand kata Shinto. One of the things that comes to my mind in my practice is the distance that it provides between, actually, the distance and timing that it provides between someone striking you using the footwork to evade and protect, and then put yourself in a position of advantage and put your attacker in a position of disadvantage. Um, the turns in Shinto, anytime there are, big turns like that in a kata, you have to sort of wonder to yourself what's going on here. What are they? What is the founder trying to tell me here in this piece of waza, and what it means, and how it can be used. We talk about centrifugal force, um, and we teach the principle of it as you take a bucket of water and spin it. The water doesn't come out because the centrifugal force is holding it in place. So there's something to be said about that when it comes to that idea of using a spin when getting it, when someone is throwing something at you. How you misdirect that with the circular movement. So starting from the ground up with the footwork in the kata, it introduces our students to a new stance. First of all, they have to learn how to put one leg behind the other and sort of get comfortable and balanced in this new approach to fighting in Shinto stance, Dachi, Shinto Dachi. So the next thing that we look at in the position of our feet is what's required. So from a normal, unassuming stance, you're just standing somewhere. When someone comes at you, when you use the Shinto principle, if you remember on the Karate Kid when he's telling him, um, the drum will answer. That movement, the again, that when you create that centrifugal force, no matter how you move the axis of the circle, the energy and the power is still there. So it brings us to the the approach of our footwork first. We don't get a good base under us when we get attacked. We're gonna, it's not going to be. First of all, you're going to be off balance if you don't have a good um, understanding of how your feet support your body, and when it's moved, what happens, and how that weight gets distributed so that you can have a quick flinch response. That you're not so rooted on the ground that you can't move quickly enough, which is going to happen when you get surprised and you get adrenalized and so on and so forth. But for the topic of building the stance, how do you build a proper Shinto Dachi? Well, we can give you the principles, but then you have to take them and you should work how your body fits into a Shinto stance, into Shinto Dachi. So that's the first piece of knowledge that you get out of Shinto. You get to learn how to come from just a normal stance, just standing up. And again, if someone was to attack you and you were to, use the Shinto Dachi to sort of create a little bit of time while you're while the strike, while you're dealing with the strike. Okay. So again, to me, I think Shinto provides you with a little bit of a buffer in there. There's like a little bit of a timing buffer built in because of what you do with your feet and how you do turn your body. And you do shift your axis, if you will, from left to right. I often wonder, when the students ask me, Sensei, I'm uncomfortable. Yes. I wonder how to explain to try to help people find comfort in Shinto Dachi, the natural, weight distribution in the stance. It's very comfortable, actually. It's not you would look at it and say, oh, that looks very uncomfortable. It's not. It's not if you use it when you find your center and you bend your knees properly and you lock that leg behind the other leg and you sort of sit in the stance. Um, the balance and the root of the stance becomes very strong. Um, you can in and out of it very quickly. Um, it sets up for a great throw because now they're right on your hip, and So again, the stance of Shinto Dachi and how you teach it to someone, whether they're moving straight ahead, whether they're moving backward, whether they're moving to the side, whether they're moving on an angle. Shinto can be achieved at any one of those designations within the circle, or I should say within where you're standing anyway, okay? Rather than having to have to always back up, which is a natural thing. When you get attacked, everybody wants to back up. But as you're learning things in martial arts, attack the attack. I mean, if someone's throwing a punch at you, don't think that that punch is, oh God, no, the idea is to attack it. The idea is to break it off. The idea is to stop it from hitting you. The idea is to misdirect it in a way that, again, puts them in a position of disadvantage and you now in a position of advantage where you probably have access to the neck as the arm goes by you. So the stance, when I teach this stance to a student that is qualified now and has gotten to brown belt level, because this is a brown belt kata, um, they have a good understanding of Seisan Dachi, Seiyuchin Dachi, Hanshi Dachi. So they've learned how to manipulate their feet in such a way that accommodates the kata. So in Shinto now, you get a whole new set of um, you get a whole new look of how your feet are going to move around. You're going to have to make big turns, so you're going to have to be somewhat balanced and don't get dizzy. That you come out of the turn, you're like whoa. So you have to. It's all about control. It's all about breath. When I look at some of the competitors that know the kata and do the kata, they all do the waza. However they were taught. The breathing element in kata is the power behind the kata. Let's face it, without your breath, you can't. It's gas to the engine. Air is like gas to the engine because without it, you don't run. So in your kata, when you apply your waza to your kata, you're supposed to use your breathing almost as exclamation points at the end of what you're doing because it's the breath and the setting of the center and bringing everything together that that timing provided. You know what I'm saying? So looking at that, you stumble over your feet, and now from the ground up, everything is messed up because the feet are trying to catch up and they're late and you may trip and it's horrible. So the footwork in the kata, and they call the path the embusen. Once you learn that, even stepping in the kata, like when you don't do any of the waza, you just walk the kata out, just walk the path, do the embusen. Even when you pick up your feet and you move, your breath is it sort of sets the tone for that segment of waza that you just did because it's your breath that powered you to do that little segment or piece of waza. Now, of course, when you drill it, when you take that little segment or piece of waza out and you do that exchange with your partner, well, we all know that we're breathing and we're working, and you know it's almost like you take it for granted, but it's part of the waza. The breathing and the stepping are two things that you do, most of the day without thinking about it. You don't think about taking steps as you're walking to your job or as you're walking to your car, whatever. You don't think about breathing when you're walking home, whatever. You just breathe. But in the kata, there's a requirement for breathing. and how the breathing gets applied to the footwork. There's a correlation there. There's a timing issue there. There's something that happens when you do it right. The it's like the magnetics come together and boom. It's got the requirements that you were taught to learn and apply come together and come to fruition at that moment. So teaching the stance in the kata is the first gift that we get to present to the students because again, once you learn Shinto kata, those of you that know it, um, we all know what a gem of a kata that it is. It's according to my sensei, it's a complete form or study of karate. Just that one kata, you can spend a lifetime doing that kata and going through it and picking it apart and drilling it and doing all of the things that we do with kata. And again, it will last your lifetime. So at green belt, you're looking at the brown belts doing Chinto, and you're like, wow, look at that jump! Wow, look at the blocks! Look at look at the movements in that kata. So you're almost like trying to work hard so that sensei will get you to that rank so you can learn the kata. It's inspiring. So at least for the ones that are really into it, again, I call it a gift. Shinto's a gift because once you learn it, you have it. As long as you retain it in memory, you always have that waza available to you. And who knows? Maybe one day it might even save your life. So Shinto kata is the the benchmark. When you get to a certain level to learn, let's say Seisan, learn the Seiyuchin kata and the Hanshi kata. Those are three katas that when you come into our system, we work on giving you because they set, they start teaching the stances, how to apply the waza and all the what the waza means and how what you're trying to target and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, by the time you get to Wansu, which I call the working man's kata or the working person's kata, um, Wansu, again, tonight's program is not about those katas. Wansu is a bridge kata. It bridges you from Seisan, Seiyuchin, Hanshi. Now you learn Wansu, and Waza gets um, not difficult. Difficult's the wrong word, but more advanced. You start to learn things in Wansu kata that are introduced to you in the first three katas. You see what I'm getting at? There's a progression here. There's a way to teach these empty hand katas. Same thing with our uh, weapons katas, the Kobudo curriculum. So when you get to the point where you're about to learn now, Sensei's going to sit you down and say, listen, we're going to start you on Shinto kata. We're going to start giving you waza now that's brings your karate to the next level of experience and practice so that you can take it home and practice it. Look in the mirror, see where your hands are, see where your elbows are, see how your knees are looking. When you step into Chinto, are you comfortable? Are you centered? Um, and it gives you a new set of uh, rules and regulations, if you will, about what the kata is about, and gives you an explanation of the waza and how you apply it, and you're like amazed because some of the movements, again, some of those big turns, they represent so much in martial arts. Watch any martial arts movie, spin kicks, you know, just anything with turns in it. It creates a lot of energy. Okay, a lot of momentum, a lot of inertia. When you look at how Shinto is applied now, once you've been introduced to the stance and the breathing and what's required in that regard, you start to look at now the waza, and the waza gets again now. We're going to step your karate up to the next level because now you're at Shinto, and Shinto will provide you with a wider range of tools that you can use in a moment's notice and be very effective. That's the thing. I mean, it's one thing, to be able to have the kata, but now it's also another thing to be able to um, use those pieces of waza that you've learned effectively. Okay, so it does. Shinto provides you with all of that and more. So moving on to what we call the bunkai of the kata, the explanation of everything that you're required to learn and practice, and just like you did when you learned Seisan, Seiyuchin, Hanshi, and Wansu. All of that was explained to you, and you've shown the sensei that no matter what we ask you to do within that kata, not only can you explain it, expand upon it, use an uki to show the waza and how it works and how you use it, so that we know you know it. You're not just saying that you know it. And again, that's only the beginning. What you show us when you've had it, let's say for 6 months or a year, whatever, what you show us is only the beginning of what you're learning, because again, in the kata, there's so much more to learn in that kata that we give you a basic explanation of bunkai, but then it's your job to take that basic explanation and say, well, what if this happened? How would I apply it this way? How would I apply it that way? Like we do empty hand katas on the ground. People say, well, how do you do Seisan on the ground? How do you do Chinto on the ground? How do you do Kusanku on the ground? Well, again, if you don't try it or you don't experiment, I guess that's why you would ask that question. Why would you do the katas on the ground? They're made for stand up fighting. Okay, and I totally agree. That's what they were designed to do. But I guess when you've been around doing the katas and you're trying to get more and more information from the kata, you may try it. You may say, let. For instance, in Seisan kata, if you were to take the double punch, kick, punch out of the kata and drill it stand up, you would get a result there. You would see how the block, double strike, kick, punch works in real time. That's why we drill. So now imagine try it on the floor. Try it on your side. Try it on your belly. Try it on your back. Try it on your other side. Some people say, well, try what? How am I going to do a block, double strike, kick, punch on the ground? Well, try it. When you're in tight, you use the knee, use the elbow, use the shoulder. Some people even use the head. So try it. See how you do it. There's no right and wrong here, folks. There's no, well, that's stupid or that doesn't make sense. No, it's a practice. It's something you're trying. If you don't try things, how would you know if they work or don't work? And then even some of the best ideas, when you try them, you have to make modifications to them because in the field, things work, in a natural way, and sometimes the drawing doesn't match the natural way. Okay, so having said all of that, I was with a very dear friend last night, and we were talking about our workouts and how we come home with the bruises, and our wives look at us and say, "Well, what are you fellas doing?" It's all about conditioning. Well, Chinto, as my sensei explained to us, it's a complete a practice of karate. You master Chinto, and you don't need any other karate. You just use Chinto. Anyway, stances, breathing first. Learn the stances, learn the embusen, walk it out, learn the path. Let Sensei teach you how to walk it out, and then add the waza. And between the embusen, the breathing, and the waza, you may start Shinto and end where they tell you, show you all the moves, stand up and bow out. Um, and you may think, well, I know Shinto. I know it from start to finish. Yes, you know the movements and you've been practicing it. But the worst thing you could do to yourself is limit yourself and say, well, I know it. No, you don't. You know it's foundation, and you know it's embusen, you know it's pad, you know it's movements, it's waza. But again, once you start drilling that kata, there's no end. You won't live long enough to do all the work in that kata. So don't ever think, oh, I'm bored. Some kids say, Sensei, I'm bored with this. Yeah, that's because they're not. They won't open their minds and allow themselves to accept something. Because maybe a friend said, "Oh, what are you taking karate for? That stuff's fake, or it doesn't work, whatever." So they got discouraged, or they got turned off, or whatever their excuse could be. But I got to tell you, folks, I learned this kata in my teens. When I was a teenager. I'll say I know it from start to finish when I do it in the competition, whatever the judges could recognize. Okay, the guy's doing Shinto. But do I know the kata? I'm practicing it. I'm trying to learn, more and more about its origin, its founder, um, what it represented, why it was so popular, why people seek to learn it. The myth of it. That it was such a powerful thing, like a real powerful tool. Something of value. So when you get older and you've been spending time on a subject for many, many years, and you're persistent about it, that you won't get off until you feel that you're somewhat satisfied about your progress with something like that. Well, you see, each one of the katas is a volume. It's an encyclopedia, and we have 8 of them. So, I would need a lot of time to sort of learn them, and learn them in a way that I can benefit by it. In real time, like if something were to happen, at the spur of the moment, is there anything there in the katas that will save me? And yes, there is. If you have again taken the little segments out of the kata, drill them, put them back in, take out the next one, drill it, put that one back in, take out, and then you can switch them. You can take a move from this segment, a move from this segment, and a move from that segment that are completely not related, but yet you can sort of overlay them. So again, it's all about your creativity. If you're satisfied, okay, I learned the kata, I'm done. That's it. I go to competition, I do the kata, and they judge me, and I'm done. If that's your practice, God bless you. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are some of us that may want to delve in a little further and really learn the science of kata. Because now, once you learn the embusen and the waza, once you do delve in, again, I'll go back to the beginning, learning the stances. You've just learned now something that can increase your fighting skills by maybe 50 or 75%. And all you did was learn a stance. Now, we're obviously running out of time here. We've already been on the air 31 minutes, but I'll close it up by saying this: that the kata is one, a privilege to learn, two, a privilege to teach if you ever get to that level where you can pass this on, and then three, the richness of the drills in the kata. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hanshi's Corner with Vena Sensei, Dan Vena Sensei. My name again is Danny Vena, and we build these programs because our students sometimes are far away and they can't, come to class as regularly as they would like to. So, to keep the communications up and to keep the ideas flowing and the maybe some satisfy some questions. I might have said something. Oh, Sensei, when you watch that program, you mentioned about this or that, and so if again these little tools that we have available to us can work and satisfy maybe a requirement that you may have based upon these little short videos, by all means, and that's what we're here to do. So again, stay tuned for more interviews. Um, uh, we have students coming in that we've been asking permission to have them do their katas in front of the audience, and then of course have people make some comments, and then bring an uki out and start working the bunkai of the kata, and maybe spark a discussion about that here on the program. So we're looking forward to doing these things and building these tools that we use to teach our students and reference material, so on and so forth. Um, Always provides us with an opportunity to get our message out there. And our message is pure that we pay homage to our founder. We pay homage to our first generation students, their grand black belts, and all the students, past, present, and future. So, again, thanks for tuning in. This was a short program tonight, but we did want to get it in because, we're our best to keep the voice of karate, Sensei Ed McGrath's legacy alive. So, he talked to people, and we're from his dojo, so we talk to people, and we try our best to get our message out there. So, again, thank you to my Sensei, Ed McGrath. God bless, Dad. You've been a wonderful inspiration, both while you were here with us and now that you're gone, bringing us that support that I believe exists when you do pass on. That people, if you do the right thing, that their essence and their presence will serve you and serve you well. So, again, stay tuned, folks. We'll be back with our next program, and I believe, let me just check the schedule here. I think we have, yes, one of my dear friends and students, Sensei Rob, is going to be on next. So stay tuned for that program. He's got a great story. I've known him since we're like 6 years old, and he's been a great friend and a great sensei over the years. So thanks for tuning in, and stay safe. Um, go slow, go safe, go sound, and if somebody needs a helping hand, maybe lend it and see if you can make their day a little better. Good night, everybody.